fact that you're here and that you're watching this video means one thing to me. It means that you have had enough of your OCD, that you have been struggling for way too long, that you are sick and tired of being trapped, of having a prison in your mind, of being so consumed by these thoughts and by these urges and by these feelings that just make it feel like you don't have control over your life anymore, and you just ache and you just yearn for some sense of freedom, for some relief. Finally, because you feel like your life is being taken from you. You feel like the harder you fight and the more that you try, the more that things just go wrong and that you just feel stuck. So if right now you're stuck feeling any of these ways, I want you to raise your hand. And now, if you are ready to open your heart for just a little bit of hope, just a little bit of hope, even if nothing has worked for you, even if it feels like you've tried everything, you've done everything, you've researched, you've tried ERP, you've done all these things, and maybe you've memorized that it's impossible to overcome this because it's been so powerful and so consuming. But if you are ready to open your heart, to open your mind to just a little bit of hope, just a little bit of hope that what I'm sharing here can actually change your life, can actually turn things around and make it so that everything changes for you. So that suddenly the things that were absolutely impossible and this OCD that felt like this crazy out of control monster that's just like, what is happening? That maybe can shift, and maybe you can start to understand what's actually happening with your OCD so that you actually know the steps you can take that make it possible to conquer the OCD and to heal from it deep inside of you, to heal from this for good in a lasting way where you're able to create lasting results. If you're ready to have just the smallest bit of hope, or maybe a lot of hope, but if you're ready to have some hope, then raise your hand and I want you to say yes. I want you to take your hand and put it on your heart and just feel just a tiny bit of hope. Even if you can't feel the hope, just choose hope in this moment. Because the thing that I'll say to you is, if you've struggled and if you felt trapped with your OCD, like I've been there. I was there on and off for 14 years. So starting when I was very young, I went through traumas. So over the next 14 years of my life, I was on and off through some crazy OCD, so much OCD, I thought I was going crazy. I literally thought I was losing my mind. I didn't know what was real. For the longest time, I didn't even know I had OCD because I thought all the fears were just actually things I needed to be afraid of. And I struggled with all sorts of different themes, with religious, with perfectionism, with puro and false memory and real event and relationship for sure. And just always fearing that I wasn't good enough, that I was being judged and there was something wrong with me. And then specific OCDs, like the obsession with not having sweat marks because I thought if I did, that would make me the most horrible, judged, rejected, gross person in the world that everyone would hate and no one would ever love me. And so I struggled with these things so much for years, and I had panic attacks and tons of anxiety and didn't dare talk to people. I couldn't work, I couldn't go on dates. Like, it was horrible, the OCD that I had. And I tried therapy and I tried some of the traditional things, and it just wasn't the answer. Like, yes, they teach some good things, but it's just not the full answer. So if you can relate to that, then just know that you are in the right place. This video is exactly made for you. That if you feel consumed and confused by your OCD that you've been trapped in, then this video is going to change all of that. And the reason I can say with so much confidence that the information you're about to learn is better than anything else you've learned in all of the OCD community and in whatever treatments you've tried, in Facebook groups, whatever you've learned, this is better. And the reason I can say that with so much confidence is because the fact that you're here and you're still struggling with OCD means you haven't learned this stuff yet. Because the thing I'll say to you from the start is that the fact that you're still stuck and you're still struggling and nothing's worked the way you want it to, it doesn't mean that you're broken. It doesn't mean that you just don't work or that you just have to be stuck like this forever and you can learn to manage it, but OCD is just a condition for life and you're just done for. No, it doesn't. It just means you haven't learned the right information, the right strategies in your life. You haven't learned these things yet. The things that I went from 14 years of feeling so trapped to literally in just like a month being absolutely in love with life. And I remember going through this time, people would ask me like, David, how's life? How are you doing? Because it was right after something really hard and horrible happened in my life that everyone was aware of. So they asked me like, okay, like, how are you doing? After you went through that. And I genuinely, like, honestly could look them in the eyes and be like, I didn't know it was possible to be doing this good. Like, I'm doing so good. Life is just amazing right now. And it's because I learned these things. So in this video, I'm going to teach you exactly what is happening to cause your OCD, because that is the first step you need to understand, is what is going on psychologically. What is OCD? And I'm going to explain it in a way that you've never been taught before. And I'm confident about that because I've had so many conversations with people, so many, where as soon as I explain this stuff to them, they're like, whoa, like that makes so much sense. I've never heard it explained that way before. Like, holy cow, that's crazy. Like, yeah, that totally fits what's been going on with me. And so I'm very confident that's how it's going to be for you too. And it's going to be so eye-opening for you and so life-changing, because it's going to show you that OCD is not this crazy monster you're stuck with, but instead there's a simple, not easy, but very simple set of steps and things you can do in order to actually heal from this and actually conquer this in your life. So I'm going to explain to you why the OCD is happening, what's happening, and then also give you the simple steps, or kind of the 4 goals that you can have to start actually conquering this OCD. So if that is worth the next 45 minutes of your time, your focus, and your participation for me to teach you those things, then right now I just want you to raise your hand and say yes. Okay, let's do this. So the first thing you've got to understand with OCD is that all OCD is patterns that you've memorized in your subconscious. That's what it is. Like, that's why it's happening, and that's why it feels so out of control and so hard to understand, is because it's not things you're consciously thinking. Like, you're not consciously thinking, oh, I want to wake up today and just be like super afraid of everything I touch. Oh, I want to wake up today and just like obsess over every single flaw I could ever have. Oh, I want to wake up today and I want to just like be so scared of these intrusive thoughts that make me think I'm going to hurt someone. You don't consciously think that, but your subconscious is absolutely thinking that. And maybe not exactly in that way, but your subconscious, the patterns you memorized in your subconscious are creating all of the OCD you're experiencing. So let me explain first off, what is the subconscious? Because I understand that for a living, you don't learn more and more about the brain every single day. So a lot of people don't know what the subconscious is, even though that is so crucial for understanding OCD. So your subconscious, in the most simplified way, and I think most helpful way I can explain it to you, is basically, it's the part of your brain that memorizes information. So for example, right now, if I told you to tie your shoes, I'm guessing you could tie your shoes and keep paying total attention to me and not really pay any attention to tying your shoes at all, and you'd still be able to do that. It's because you've memorized how to do that, right? Same thing with learning how to talk as a child. You memorize those patterns of this word means this thing, and now I can just connect words and sentences automatically, subconsciously. I don't have to consciously think of, oh, what does that word mean? And oh, how do I? No, you just memorize it, right? Just like you memorize names, you memorize phone numbers, you memorize all these different things. And just like you don't have to consciously think about breathing, your subconscious just takes care of that, right? So our subconscious determines so much of what we experience in life. And what most people don't realize, because a lot of people will talk about, oh, you can memorize a skill, right? I can learn how to get better at basketball. If I go shoot enough times, then, after I've taken 10,000 shots, I don't have to think like, okay, how do I hold the ball? What's my form? Like, no, you just catch it and shoot, right? I love basketball, so that's why I use that analogy. But it's the exact same way with your thoughts and your emotions, and the exact same way with the OCD. You've memorized these patterns that your body, your subconscious mind, now knows how to do better than you consciously know how to do, right? Just like when you sign your autograph, your signature, you aren't thinking of how to do it. Your hand just goes. Your hand knows how to do it better than your mind consciously does. It's the same thing with this OCD. You memorize these patterns, right? I like to look at it almost as like a movie. When you watch a movie and you've seen the movie before, then you know what's going to happen, because the movie has been, it's been recorded in a way where it just plays out the same every single time, right? So when you're watching this movie and it gets to that last part, you're like, oh no, like, the world is doomed. These villains are gonna just destroy the world. You don't have to sit and be like, oh no, what's gonna happen? Because you've seen the movie. You know, oh, okay, the superhero is gonna come in, he's gonna save the day in this exact way, and this is gonna happen. Because it's the same pattern that plays in that movie. Well, your OCD is the exact same way. Your subconscious memorizes these patterns of thinking and feeling, and the ways that it perceives the world and your life, and just the ways that it thinks and feels about your life and about the things going on in your day-to-day life. It memorizes it and it plays it like a movie. That's why that fear that you've had, that theme or whatever, it just keeps playing. And it keeps playing the same thoughts, the same feelings over and over and over again. And maybe it switches between different themes. Maybe you have like 5 movies that you like to play and you're just, oh, play this movie. Oh, now play this movie. But but that's what it is. It's patterns you've memorized in your subconscious. And you might be thinking to yourself like, okay, why did my subconscious memorize a pattern where I'm literally like terrified to leave my house, or where I'm literally always thinking about why people are judging me, or where I'm just like terrified every time I cough because I think I'm gonna die? Like, why would my subconscious memorize patterns like that? So that's what I'm going to explain in this video. So the other thing about the subconscious, your subconscious, it memorizes information based on knowledge you learn, based on experiences you have. That's the biggest thing, experiences. But also, the whole goal of your subconscious is to help you meet your needs. And so the 4 needs that every human has, no matter what ethnicity you are, no matter where you were born, no matter how much trauma you've been through, no matter what gender you are, like no matter any of that, every human has these 4 needs. And so they're right here. The first need is safety and survival, because obviously if you die, like you can't really have anything that you need and want in life. Like, right, you've got to survive. So the first need is safety and survival. That's the first one. The second one is freedom and control. Because if you feel like you're trapped, like you're out of control, which this is a huge one with all OCD, is you're trying to have some control and there's a thing in your life making you feel totally out of control, right? We need control. We need freedom, the ability to be able to act on our lives instead of our lives trapping us. So that's the second one. The third one is significance or being good enough, right? And this goes with a lot of OCDs, like, you know, the past event ones where you're afraid of a horrible mistake you made, or religious scrupulosity, right? A lot of things is all about, am I good enough? Did I do this thing that makes me bad, that makes me not good enough, that makes me a horrible person? Or, you know, needing significance. Oh, you know, this is like with eating disorders. I have to be skinny enough to be significant, so I can be good enough to then be loved. And that's the 4th need, is love and connection. And that's probably like the biggest need that we have. Like, it is such a huge need that every human has. It's the need for love and connection. You've got to be loved, whether it's romantic love or whether it's, you know, family love or platonic love, whatever it is. And intimate love is a huge one, but we all need love and connection in our lives. It is a huge need. It's not just a want, it's a need that is wired deeply inside of us. It's that need for love and connection. These are all needs we have. And so these 4 needs are what create all OCD. Like, all OCD comes and stems from one of these 4 needs or multiple. So what that means is the goal of your subconscious mind is to help you and to make sure that you meet these 4 needs. So when your subconscious mind memorizes that one or multiple of these needs aren't met and that you don't have control over it being met, so you're like, shoot, I'm not good enough, and it's because there's this flaw I have that I don't have control over removing that flaw. Or, oh, I don't have love, I've been denied love. And this is why trauma comes into OCD a lot, is because if I've been abused or I've had awful things happen to me where I memorized in my subconscious that I'm not lovable, or I've memorized that I'm not good enough and I'm worthless and, you know, whatever. Or if I memorize I have no control because my whole life I've just been hurt, or because my whole life I felt out of control because of these different factors, right? When you memorize in your subconscious that one or multiple of these needs aren't met, and then especially for us, when you memorize for a specific reason it's not met, that's when your brain is going to obsess over that reason and somehow either removing that obstacle or somehow achieving that thing that will make it so your need can be met. That's when the OCD happens. So to explain this a little bit more and to help you understand specifically for you why your OCD is happening, we're gonna come over here to blueprints. So blueprints is a term I first got from Tony Robbins. He's a beast, he has a ton of good information. But I kind of took what he taught and then just, you know, shifted it, changed it a little bit to really help it relate more to OCD. So when it comes to your subconscious, your OCD, this is what's happening. And you might be like, there's a house that is happening. Great, yeah, that makes tons of sense. Like, what is going on? So let me explain. With this analogy of the house, your needs, having your needs met is being in the house. That's the comparison there. So when you're in the house, your needs are met. You're like, okay, good. Your subconscious is like, yes, we can feel happy, we can feel safe, we can feel okay because our needs are met. We are inside this house. And if you were inside the house, you wouldn't have OCD because your subconscious would no longer be like, oh, we need to obsess over having our need met, because instead your needs are met. You're inside the house. Does that make sense? If that makes sense, say yes. Okay, awesome. So the way that this works is your subconscious mind has memorized that there is a door for how you get inside the house of having your needs met. So it's memorized that there's a big picture thing of this thing has to happen, right? This door of my blueprints, this thing has to happen for my needs to be met. And if it doesn't happen, my needs can't be met, right? And so maybe this door for you is that you have to not have intrusive thoughts, because if you have intrusive thoughts, that makes you not, free and in control. Or maybe for you, your door is you have to be perfect, or maybe perfect in a specific way. Oh, I have to have a perfect body. Oh, I have to be perfectly successful. Oh, I have to be perfectly never judged by anyone, right? I can never be judged or rejected. That was a huge one for me, of always fearing being judged for literally every insecurity you could ever imagine. And so whatever it is, I can't have harm intrusive thoughts. So a point to make here with this door is, we look at it as this thing has to happen to have our needs met, but it might mean this thing has to not happen, right? A big one that a lot of people have is I have to not have OCD. Like, I have to not have OCD in order to have my needs met, because, with my OCD, I'm out of control, I don't have freedom. It makes me a failure, a loser that won't be loved or whatever. And, that means I won't be loved. I can't connect with people, right? So, especially for this one, but really for all four, you could memorize that, if I have OCD, my needs aren't met. So then your brain is going to obsess over, I have to not have OCD. So then your door would be not having OCD, right? Or maybe it's, I have to be totally safe, and I have to have perfect confidence all the time that I'm perfectly safe from contamination. Maybe that is your door, right? Or, I have to know I'm going to heaven. That is my door. Whatever it is, like, pause the video right now and think about what's the big picture thing of this thing has to happen or has to not happen in order for my needs to be met. And pause the video and think about what need is it for you. Have you memorized that, I might not be safe, I might not survive? Or is it, I might not be in control ever again? Or is it, I might not be lovable, or I might not be good enough? What need is it for you? Once you have this door that you've memorized in your subconscious, and now the point to make here is with this door, your brain is going to view it as fact. So really, all this is memorized beliefs. That's all it is. It's beliefs you've memorized. And so a lot of this stuff, like if you have OCD, it means this stuff is false. You've memorized false beliefs, but because you've memorized it in your subconscious, and because you have so many experiences and things in your past that you've used to memorize this, your brain now views it as fact. So that's why, it's so consuming and it's so powerful and it seems so real to you, even when you tell someone without OCD, like, holy cow, if I touch that door, I'm probably gonna die. And they're like, what are you talking about? Like, that's, like, what? How would that happen? But to you, your brain has memorized that is fact. So that's the thing to realize. Even if your brain has memorized it as fact, it's really just a blueprint, a set of beliefs that isn't necessarily true and is actually not true. So, moving forward, you have your door, then you have your pathway. These are all the specific things that get you to your door, right? So if your door is, I need to not have OCD, then that means anytime any sort of OCD gets triggered, you're not having your path. The pathway to not having any OCD would be, I have to not ever have any intrusive thoughts. I have to not have compulsions. I need to be able to avoid my compulsions, avoid doing those. I need to not be ruminating. I need to have total control over my thoughts. I need to feel perfectly happy. I need to, there might be a lot of these things on this pathway that are a lot of specifics in the moment. That is what your brain has memorized as these things have to happen in order for this big picture thing that needs to happen in order for my needs to be met. And then the fences, this beautifully artistically drawn fence, is basically anything your brain memorizes as this thing will stop my needs from being met. So for me, my biggest fence, honestly, was having sweat marks. I memorized that if I have sweat marks, then I will never have love, no matter what. I won't have love. Everyone will judge me. Everyone will think I'm disgusting and gross, and they'll tell everyone, and I will just be a total outcast. I actually memorized that was fact. So that was my fence. The holy cow, if this thing happens, I won't be able to take this path and get to this door, right? And maybe your fence is the harm intrusive thought. If I have this harm intrusive thought, then that way I can't have this control over my actions, or maybe I can't. So my need for freedom and control and for being good enough isn't met. So then the way that your brain works with the OCD, why the OCD happens, why you're always fearing, always obsessing, always ruminating, always doing all these things, is because your brain thinks if it can get you to think about something, and if it can get you to feel tons of fear and shame towards that thing, then that way it thinks it can make sure you protect yourself from that thing. And so with these fences, because usually there's not one, usually there's like tons of them, right? There's tons of things your brain's like, if this thing happens, it'll be absolutely horrible. It can't happen. So with these fences, your brain thinks that you have to think about it. You have to notice and think about this fence, and you have to feel tons of fear and shame towards that fence, because that's the only way that when you're going through this path, but you won't come to the fence. Instead, you'll like somehow escape it or avoid it or like run around it. And so that way you won't have this fence happen that will stop your needs from being met. And so all of the OCD, like the reason why it's happening, the reason why your brain is literally obsessed with always thinking that everything is contaminated and that everything you touch, you have to go wash your hands and you have to do these things because you can't be contaminated. It's because your brain has memorized that the only way your need is met is if you can avoid all contamination. And then it's memorized that if this contamination happens, your need cannot be met. So then your brain thinks that it always has to be thinking about, noticing, and feeling fear towards any possible fence, any possible thing that could contaminate you. Because that's the only way you can make sure and force that your needs are met. And so with whatever it is you're doing, like with the intrusive thought itself, this is the important thing to realize, let's say harm intrusive thoughts. Your brain is connected so much fear, so much danger, so much your needs not being met towards what if I lose control and hurt someone? Or maybe it's about the thought itself. Oh, just having this thought makes me a gross, awful person because I'm thinking about harming someone. And so just this thought itself makes me feel so out of control, it makes me feel so not good enough that the thought itself becomes the fence. And then because of that, whether it's the thought itself you're afraid of or the thing the thought represents, or probably both, your brain thinks, holy cow, this thing is so awful, it would make my needs not met if I have this intrusive thought. So then what does your brain do? It says, you have to think about this intrusive thought. You have to think it. You have to think about harming your child, because if you did that, that'd be the most horrible thing ever that would make all your needs not met. And so you have to think about it and feel tons of fear towards it. And you have to convince yourself that that's actually going to happen, so that way you can feel so much fear that you can make sure you protect yourself from that horrible thing. That's why it's happening. So when you're having that intrusive thought, it doesn't mean, oh, I'm actually going to lose control and hurt someone. No, it means your brain is so against that it's doing everything it possibly can. And it's creating all these thoughts, all these fears, and it's actually convincing you that yes, you are absolutely going to harm that person. That's why you're thinking this. It's trying to convince you of that because it thinks that's the only way it can create enough fear and create enough attention towards that thing that you can make sure you protect yourself from it. And that's how it is with all OCD, right? Like that's the intrusive thoughts. And now the ruminating. The ruminating is like, holy cow, if this fence exists, my needs aren't met. So I have to somehow sit and prove so much that I can convince myself that this fence doesn't exist or that it won't exist, because that's the only way that I can feel like I'm actually going to get to this house. So that's why I'm going to sit and ruminate. And my mind, with all of these, your mind's not going to let you think about anything else in that moment, because it's like, no, nothing else matters. Like, what, you want to be happy? No, happiness doesn't matter. The only thing that matters right now is that we avoid this fence. So no, I don't care if you want to go have fun with your kids. I don't care if you want to go, work out and just enjoy no, you have to think about this right now. You have to ruminate until you can solve it in your mind, till you can prove this thing. And you have to have the intrusive thought because you have to remember that, yes, this thing would be horrible if it happens, so you have to think about it. And same thing with, with the compulsions. Your brain's basically saying, okay, there's like one little ladder here. There's one ladder that you can use to get over this fence, and this ladder is washing your hands. Or this ladder is the mental, proving something. Or, oh, this ladder is confessing to someone to make sure you're not a bad sinner. Whatever that compulsion is, your brain's like, okay, that's the only ladder you can use to get over this fence. And then that's when your brain creates that urge that's so powerful, so strong, because your brain thinks you have to do this thing. That is the only way you can get past this fence to get your needs met. So that's why you feel so much of an urge of, I have to go wash my hands. Even if you're logically, there's no reason. I understand I'm not actually going to die if I don't wash my hands. But your brain is like, holy cow, we've memorized that the only way your needs can be met is if you avoid all contamination. So because of that, if you have any contamination, this fence, you're done. Your needs are not met. So we have to take this fence of washing our hands. You have to do that. Boom, and it creates this feeling. Because the way that, beliefs, emotions, and thoughts work is that based on your beliefs, based on these blueprints, your beliefs about the way the world works, your subconscious is going to automatically cause you to think and feel accordingly based on what you're believing and what you're perceiving in that moment. So if you believe that, holy cow, the only way I can ever have love and be good enough is if I'm perfect, is if I never have any flaws, then your brain, based on that belief, is going to say, okay, then that means we have to avoid all flaws we can ever have. So it's going to automatically be triggering and creating, like this is the thing to realize with OCD, is all of it, your subconscious is creating and imagining up on purpose. Like your brain is causing you, it is creating that story you're telling yourself of, holy cow, this person's judging me for this reason and it's horrible and I'm such a bad person. It is imagining up those thoughts and those images that you're seeing and imagining and those physical feelings, like it is creating those, right? Emotion is just the way that your subconscious communicates with you based on what you're believing and thinking in the moment. And sometimes it's subconsciously that you're thinking and believing that thing. But if subconsciously even I'm thinking, holy cow, I'm a horrible sinner because, what if I did this sin? What if this sin made me horrible? And what if this thing? Then your brain, the natural response is that your subconscious is going to go, oh, our needs are not being met because we're a horrible sinner. And if we ever sin at all, then that makes us not good enough. That, right? It's offense we've memorized. So because we are now perceiving in this moment, we're now believing in this moment that, oh, our needs aren't met because we're a sinner, then holy cow. Your subconscious thinks, holy cow, we need to know about this so that we can somehow escape the sin. So it creates all this shame, and it's going to create as much shame as it possibly can. And the more you believe that, holy cow, this thing is a horrible sin that's going to make it so I can never be good enough, right? The stronger the belief, the stronger the emotion. So that emotion you're experiencing is just a natural response. That's all it is. It's a natural response of a message from your subconscious communicating based on what you're thinking or believing, either consciously or subconsciously. That's what's happening. So when you're feeling all of that fear, it doesn't mean that thing's true. Not at all. It just means that your brain is trying to protect you from that thing. That's all it means. It means your brain is going, holy cow, there could be a threat, there could be a danger, so the only way we can... Your brain is thinking, based on our blueprints that we've memorized as fact, even though they're not fact, they're not true, it's just something you've memorized based on past experiences, your brain's going, oh, based on this thing we've memorized as fact, we have to protect ourselves from every possible offense. So we have to create this emotion right now, right? Your brain, your subconscious, it's distorting reality. It is lying to you. It wants to trick you and make you scared, even when there's nothing to be afraid of. Even when there's absolutely nothing on that thing that you're touching that's going to contaminate you. Your brain thinks that you have to believe there is because that's the only way that it can get you to wash your hands and that it can make sure you avoid any possible offense that can ever happen so your needs can be met. That's what's happening. So a few simple exercises I like to have my clients do just to really help them understand and internalize and visualize, see what's happening in their psychology that's causing this. Is right now, just for 5-10 seconds, I want you to look around you and I want you to find everything you can that's the color red. So look for red, find red, look for red, look for red. Okay, close your eyes. And now I want you to try to think of everything you can that was the color brown. The color brown. And I'm guessing you can't think of very many brown things. So now I want you to open your eyes again, and now I want you to look for brown. So look for brown, find brown, look for brown, look for brown, find brown. Okay, now stop. Close your eyes. And now I want you to think of how many things you can remember that were the color brown. And I'm guessing there's a lot more that you can remember this second time that's brown than the first time. And the reason I have you do this is to show that whatever your brain is looking for, it's going to find. And where it gets even crazier is I'm guessing some of the things you called brown were actually tan. And some of the things you called red were actually pink or maroon or whatever. I don't know all the different color names. But your brain wanted to find brown so much that it took that light tan thing and it was like, oh, that's brown. See, that's brown. Because it wanted it to be brown. That's exactly what your brain is doing with all of this. Your brain is going, we have to find every possible flaw we could ever have and we have to obsess over removing it because that's the only way we can make sure we're perfect enough to have our needs met. So that's why your brain is finding those things that aren't even there. Literally, all of the OCD. No matter how convincing the OCD is, no matter how convincing, no matter how real it seems, you can know for a fact that the very fact that it's OCD and it's something you've been fearing and obsessing over and over again, it means it's not reality. It's your brain jumping in and causing you to imagine something. It's just your imagination. That's all it is. Your brain thinks, the tricky part is it feels so convincing, right? But that's because your brain wants it to be convincing. Your brain, your subconscious, it knows you perfectly because it's your brain. So it knows exactly what thoughts, exactly what memories, exactly what feelings to trigger. It knows exactly what to do to actually convince you that thing is true because it thinks it has to convince you in order to get you to escape this fence and meet your need. It's doing it on purpose, but it's lying to you every single time. Like, you don't have to convince it. Even if you can't prove it's a lie, it's still a lie. And your brain doesn't want you to be able to prove it's a lie because it wants to prove that it's true. So even if you can't feel like it's a lie, even if it feels real, that's because your brain wants it to feel real. Even if you just know that, okay, I know OCD is usually a lie, but no, I know that this time it's true and I actually have to feel horrible about this. No, it's because your brain wants you to think and feel that way. So it's creating that on purpose, right? So another, exercise I like to have people to do, and do this right now, is I want you to, just for like 5-10 seconds, it's gonna sound silly, but I want you to imagine there's an elephant, a big old elephant in the room with you just stomping around. So just imagine that for a second. So I've talked to enough people having them do this that I can confidently say, I'm guessing you didn't yell or scream, and you probably weren't like, what the heck, like, what is this doing here? How did this get in here? Like, oh my goodness, I'm taking pictures, or I'm running out of my room. Like, I'm guessing you didn't do any of that. Why? Why didn't you? Because you knew it was just your imagination. Like, if anything, you probably kind of laughed or giggled at it. You're like, what the heck? Like, I'm imagining an elephant? Like, what? This is weird. Right? Because you knew it wasn't your imagination. And once you understand OCD, you can know for a fact that every single thought that's OCD is just that elephant. And you might be saying, no, that's not true because I actually made that mistake. Okay, but then everything your brain is getting you to think about you making that mistake is just imaginary elephants. So even if there is some truth to what happened of like, oh, I did sin or whatever, then what your brain is telling you about the sin is totally a lie, right? Or if it's the social OCD of, oh, I did this embarrassing thing, now they're judging me. It's like, yeah, maybe you did do an embarrassing thing, but the fact that your brain's telling you, oh my goodness, this is horrible, everyone's judging me, they're hating me, I'm worthless, that's literally all just total BS. It's just your brain imagining stuff up to try to scare you. The fact is, yeah, you did something embarrassing and no one cares at all. Like, they enjoyed it because it brought some fun to their day, the fact you did that embarrassing thing. They're not judging you. Like, everything your brain is telling you about the OCD, you can know for a fact it is a lie. Even if you can't prove it or feel it, it's still a lie. It's just an imaginary elephant. And the hard part is the feeling, right? And so the comparison I like to make here is, if you wanted to, could you feel yourself wearing your shirt? Like, could I feel this on my shoulders, on my arms, on my stomach? Could I feel that? Yeah, if I wanted to, I could feel it. Okay, yeah, I feel that. But we don't. It's like there's all sorts of physical sensations that you could feel. I could feel this whiteboard. I could feel my hair. I could feel whatever, all these things. And so all of the emotion, all of the physical feeling, the urge, the whatever that you're experiencing, it's just a physical sensation that your own brain is creating up and imagining up and causing to happen based on a lie. It's not real, it's not true. It's literally just a physical sensation. So yeah, I understand it's really uncomfortable and it's really, we don't like that feeling because our brains have been designed to think that, oh, if I'm feeling a negative emotion, that means my needs aren't being met. So I have to do something. But when it comes to OCD, that's not what it means. Instead, it means I'm believing a lie that's telling me my needs aren't met. That's what the negative emotions mean with OCD, which means the negative emotions actually don't mean anything because it's based on a lie. It's founded in a lie that your own brain is imagining up. So the emotion, no matter how powerful it is, it means nothing. It doesn't. And I'm not saying that, who cares about your emotions? No. Obviously, the pain that you're experiencing, yes, that's real, but the need for it or the truth of that emotion is not. It's not. It's your own brain imagining it up. So that's the thing to realize is all emotion is just a really uncomfortable shirt when it comes to the OCD. So I want you to actually take this in and internalize it. That's how you learn things and that's how you change your life. Take this in and actually think about, what does this mean to your life? Like, what does this mean to your life and to your future? The fact that all of the OCD, all of the things that's causing the most suffering and the most fear and the most pain and struggle in your life, it doesn't exist. It's literally just your imagination. And that now you can actually see and internalize how that's so true and why that's happening. And now you can understand it. So now when those things are happening to you, instead of like, oh my goodness, this is terrifying, instead it's like, oh, my subconscious is trying to meet my needs right now. Awesome, thank you, subconscious, but I don't need that lie anymore. I can be free. Like, take that in. What does that mean? How amazing is that? How incredible and just absolutely freeing and empowering is that to be able to internalize and understand that? Just think about that for a second. Feel that for a second. Feel that right now. So hopefully this all makes sense to you. If this makes sense, say yes. And you can even pause the video and kind of like teach this to yourself, explain it to yourself or to a friend, or write it down or whatever, just to make sure you're really getting all of this, because this is really powerful. But hopefully at this point, you're like, you're kind of mind blown. You're like, whoa, this stuff makes so much sense. Like, this is crazy. I've never heard it explained this way before. And yes, that's true. Like, that is what's happening. I can tell my brain is obsessed with finding all the red. It's finding all the ways that I'm a bad person or whatever. Like, hopefully it makes sense to you. But now you're probably asking, but what do I do? Like, okay, I know, now I know what's happening, but what do I do about it? So that's when we get to right here, right? Most of this was what's happening, but right here, this is the goals. And obviously I don't have time to go so in depth on all of this because I could talk about this for like 50 days, right? There's so much information and strategies and things I could share with you to just help you take your healing to the next level. But just going into the simplified steps so that you can start to understand, okay, this is what I want to do. Is there are basically four goals. Once you understand this, there are 4 ways that you can conquer this. So the first one is, if you can actually teach your brain, your subconscious, that you're already inside the house no matter what happens with any of this. Right? Because if you think, oh, I'm already in the house, then it doesn't matter if there's a fence out there because I'm inside. Right? It's like, my needs are already met. Or if you believe that you can get inside the house unconditionally. So, oh, even if I'm not in the house now, maybe I don't have the love I want now, but I totally believe that no matter what happens with any of this, I'm going to get in the house. I will be loved. And I am lovable no matter what flaws I have, no matter what, if I'm skinny enough or not, or no matter what, any of that, I am lovable. Right? That's the first thing. And something to point out here is that our needs are actually met through the beliefs and emotions, through teaching your brain to believe something new. That is how your need is met. Because I want you to think about this for a second. No matter what is happening in your life, if you genuinely and powerfully actually believed and felt like you were so loved, and wow, I just feel so loved, I'm so lovable, I'm so deserving of love, and I'm going to have more love than I could ever hope for and imagine. If you actually believed that and felt that right now in this moment, then no matter what was happening in your life, your need for love and connection would be met in that moment, right? Like, isn't that crazy how that works? And so really your needs being met is based all on the beliefs and the blueprints you've memorized and your ability to change that. Because if you can believe that, oh, my need is met, my need is totally met, unconditionally, no matter what's happening with any of this, because that is actually the truth. Like, again, all OCD is a lie, which means all of these things is lies. The idea of, oh, I have to be perfect in order to be loved, that's just total garbage. Like, that's absolutely nothing. And so that goes into the second belief, which is if you can actually believe that all of the OCD is nothing, it doesn't exist, it's not true, it's all a scam, it's literally just your brain imagining up imaginary elephants and making you feel uncomfortable shirts. Like, if you can actually internalize and believe that, then all of a sudden the OCD will go away because your brain's like, oh, I don't have to keep obsessing over this, or I don't have to keep creating these thoughts because they're nothing. There's no importance or significance to these thoughts and feelings that these patterns I've been living in because they don't exist. They're nothing. There's no truth there. So, I don't have to keep protecting myself this way because it is no protection. It's just a lie. It's nothing. So that's the second one. The third one is believing that this door, that you can get to that door unconditionally. And with this, you want to be careful because you've got to make sure it's a door that's actually an empowering, freeing door and a door that you actually want. So for example, with me, my life, my door was I have to be perfect, especially perfect in every way that impacts how lovable and attractive I am to women. Like, that was a huge door for me. And so I had to recognize that I gotta let go of that door, because that door is just garbage. It's not real. I have to be perfect. Like, perfection doesn't exist. It was never meant to. We don't want it to exist. Perfection's awful. It's gross. I don't want perfection. But what I do want, my actual door, is that I want to be totally confident to just interact with and connect with and talk to, girls I'm interested, and to believe and feel like I am lovable and that I'm good enough for anyone and that I can keep improving myself, right? Like, if that's my door, if I'm able to shift it to that door, then if I can believe that, unconditionally, I can actually create and feel and believe that door, no matter what happens with any of this, then your brain will automatically let go of the OCD, because your brain's like, we don't have to worry about these fences, because even no matter how many fences there are, I can still get to the door, so I don't have to worry about those. And I don't even have to match this pathway perfectly. I don't have to obsess over, am I working perfectly hard? Am I, do I have the perfect body? Am I perfect in this and that? No, because it doesn't matter what path we take. We're going to get to the door no matter what. It's unconditional. I don't have to prove anything or force anything, right? And then the fourth one is, if you can genuinely believe and internalize that you can have power over your thoughts and emotions, that you can actually have power to change those in any moment. And that is something I will tell you that it is true. You have that power inside of you. I don't care what your therapist has taught you. I don't care what, society's taught you, or if you feel like, no, that's impossible because I've tried and nothing's worked. It's because you didn't know how to do it the right way. You didn't know the right information. You didn't know all this information, and you didn't know the strategies, the additional strategies and information I can teach you of how to do that. But you genuinely have the power to create the belief and the emotion that you want in any moment, no matter how powerful the OCD is or has been in your life. You have that power. You can create that power. You can practice and develop that power once you learn the right strategies, the right information of how to do that. And so if you haven't used that power, I'm not saying that, if you have OCD, it's your fault and you're a failure. No, of course not. Like, it's because of the traumas, it's because of the patterns, the subconscious. That's why the OCD is happening. All I'm saying is that it is possible to no longer be a victim to your subconscious and to those traumas that you've been through, to those horrible things that no one deserves to go through. Because I'm sure, the fact that you're watching this video means you've been through things that no one deserves to go through. You've been through so much pain, so much suffering. You've had to persevere through so much more than anyone should have to in their life. And I felt that, and I felt the pain and the feeling totally hopeless and the despair and the wanting to die. I felt that. So I know how dark it can be. But just know that even though it's that dark, it doesn't have to stay that dark, because now you understand that all of this OCD is just patterns in your subconscious, which means you can rewire your subconscious. That's the thing that I can teach you how to do, is you can rewire your subconscious. You can teach yourself, the 4 goals we just went over, you can teach your subconscious how to memorize and actually believe and actually feel and experience and memorize those things until they're automatic. And so one last story I'll share with you, just to show you that you can have the power and that you can create lasting healing, is I remember back when I was first learning all of this stuff and all the stuff that I can teach you moving forward, when I was first learning and applying all of that, it had been maybe like a month, and this was back when I was in college. And I remember, again, for me, a ton of my OCD was about flaws and people judging me and rejecting me, and I'll never be loved and I'm never gonna be good enough and what's wrong with me. So I remember I was back in college when I was first learning and applying all this stuff. And I remember I was walking on campus. I remember the exact spot that I was walking, and I got this text from this girl rejecting me. And in the past, that would have caused all of the OCD that we know so well. What's wrong with me? What I do wrong? Oh my goodness, I'm horrible. This, that, all of it. The emotion, the fear, the insecurity. But instead, I remember in that moment, my brain, it almost started to go to that place. And instead, I remember just being boom, just filled with this happiness and excitement and feeling confident and feeling amazing and feeling like my dreams were coming true and feeling like my needs were met, like I was lovable and like I was good enough and all of these things, and just feeling and believing that and just filled with that experience. And I was like, what is going on? Because I didn't even consciously choose. I didn't even have to do anything, but it's because I had applied the strategies that I can teach you of teaching myself how to rewire my subconscious, teaching myself how to believe and memorize these new beliefs and feel these new beliefs, so much that my subconscious had memorized a new most dominant pattern. And in that moment, my subconscious all of a sudden it was on my team. It was supporting me. So it automatically made me feel loved and good enough and free, and like it doesn't even matter if I get rejected, right? How cool would that be if that biggest fence for you, if when that happened, your subconscious automatically would go, wow, isn't it so amazing that our need is met and that we're free and that we can be happy and confident and that we're loved and that we're going to be safe and healthy and that we can be free and we're going to heal from this and that we're not going to be stuck in this OCD forever and all of those things. And oh, I'm lovable, I'm deserving of love. What if, first off, what if you had the power to create that again, because you have the power in each moment to create the belief and the emotion you want. What if you had the power in any moment that no matter what your subconscious is triggering, that you had the power to create that? And then what if you could do that enough times with enough power that it became automatic and your subconscious memorized it, so that just like tying your shoe, you can do it automatically. Happiness and freedom and confidence and having your needs met becomes tying your shoe, where it just happens automatically. And you can just boom, oh, I go there and wow, I'm free. How amazing would that be? So if you want more information on how to accomplish that, I do have a 2-month program. It's my Power Over OCD program, where my 2 guarantees are, one, that you will have power over the OCD, that no matter what it triggers, no matter what it tries to tell you or make you feel, no matter what gets triggered subconsciously, that you will have power over it to be able to change your experience, change your belief and emotion in any moment. And then the second one is that I will give you everything you need to be able to know how to and have the ability to rewire your subconscious so that you can create lasting healing and change in your life and in your patterns and in your blueprints and in your subconscious. And I guarantee that if I don't get you those 2 things in the program, then I will keep working with you for free until I do, for up to double the length of the original program. That's at that point, if you still didn't have those 2 things, I'd give you your money back, because that's how confident I am that I'm going to get you those 2 things and that I can deliver. I've seen it time and time again. I know that this stuff works. So that's why I'm willing to give that guarantee that you will have those 2 things, because you have that power inside of you. You can be free, you can heal. And I only take in 5 new clients twice a month. So if you want to, 1, ask me any questions that you have about this and have me personally help you apply this to your OCD specifically and help you understand how you can start to do those 4 things and how you can start to break through and create that freedom today. Or if you want more information on the program to see if it's the right fit for you and to see if your OCD is the right fit for the program, then click the link below. You can schedule that free consultation, that free breakthrough session, or message me or get in contact with me in any way that you can. But before you leave this video, I just want you to know that whether you work with me or not, whether I ever even meet you or not, I just want you to know that you can be free. And so the decision I want you to make, more than I want you to make the decision that you're gonna sign up and book a call with me, the decision I want you to make is that you are going to choose to believe that this is possible, that you can be free, that you will be free, and that you are going to find a way. Make that decision, not with me, not with anyone else. Make that decision with yourself, that you're gonna do what it takes, and you're gonna keep learning, and you're gonna keep finding a way until you can learn these patterns and how to apply this information well enough that you can create the life that you dream of, the freedom, the happiness, the joy, the confidence, the ability to live life on your own terms, the feeling good enough, the believing that your needs are met, that you're safe, that you're free, that you're good enough, that you're lovable, and having that power over your mind so you're no longer trapped, but instead you are in charge of what's going on. Make that decision right now. And if you're willing to make that decision with yourself, then right now I want you to raise your hand and say, yes. Say yes. Say yes. And just put your hands on your heart and just take that and take in that that is your decision now, that you are going to keep hoping no matter what happens, that you will hope and you will believe that it's possible no matter how much darkness you have to face, no matter how much pain, suffering. Make that decision with yourself and just take it in that you will keep hope and keep believing and keep going no matter what.